before a seminarian starts to study theology, they're required to take a significant number of credits of philosophy. Theology, put simply, is faith-seeking understanding. But before we can kind of get into the understanding, we have to understand the limits of understanding and how we get to know what we think we know and how we learn things. That sets kind of a baseline by which then we can work upon theology. I would suspect, or would hope, that an equivalent would be made for those that are in the process of writing laws, whether or not they're in the legal system or in the moral system. We would need to understand what we're trying to accomplish. And I would think that a course or two in programming would be very helpful. Because the simple thing is, when we teach programming at school, it's usually about how does a computer work. But if you try to program things in the real world, then you discover that logic and reason really struggles to keep up with the complexity of real life. As a suggestion, I would say, spend an afternoon trying to write down all the rules about how a four-way stop sign intersection works. We all learned it when we learned how to drive, but throw a semi-tractor trailer into the intersection, and suddenly all the rules seem to go out the window. Don't know how to work it, because life is always more complex than our desire to simplify it, to codify it. In our readings today, it is the message about the spirit of the law versus the letter of the law. St. Paul goes a little bit far, making it sound like if you are following Christ, then rules don't matter. That's not what he's trying to say. What Paul, I believe, is trying to indicate is that if we are enslaved to our notions of laws, thinking that they're going to save us and make a huge difference, then maybe we're missing out on the deeper morality that we're consciously called to use. God expects us to use our gift of intellect and consciousness and heart to be able to sort out in any given moment what we should be doing. The rules are guardrails to keep us on the straight and narrow, but really we're supposed to navigate that kind of on our own, because the rules and regulations have limitations. And I know many people want things black and white. We see the world as going to heck with a handbasket and wish that people would just follow the rules. If it is stuck with what we're supposed to be doing, it would be a better place. Well, it would, but our rules don't cover every situation. And when it comes to spirituality, it's almost a whole different level entirely. And this is where Jesus comes along that basically says, if you follow your heart, you're going to be okay regardless of what the rules are saying. Back in August, I went on this seminar for Amazing Parish, and one of the presenters was a well-known speaker, and he was doing his spiel, and then kind of as an aside, he stopped and said, "I'm an incredible basketball player." And everybody kind of thought, didn't read that in your bio. Where are you going with this? And he explained, I follow all the rules. I don't double dribble, I don't walk, I don't foul anybody, I know all the rules and regulations, and I follow them exclusively. And then everyone started to catch on. Doing all that does not make you a fabulous basketball player. And the same is true for our spirituality. Simply being obedient, perfectly obedient to the commandments, might still mean that we're spiritually lacking. We may not have the enthusiasm, the spirits behind which we're supposed to be following Christ. So the rules and regulations are important. Jesus never undid any of those, but really we're supposed to be so much more than that. We're supposed to have a zeal for the game and not simply obedience to not get penalties. And we know that from our own spirituality, that if we are reacting out of fear of the pains of hell, that's still called imperfect contrition. You know that back in your Catholic teaching. The perfect contrition is being sorry because our desire to do better is our driving force. So may we, as we struggle in a culture and a community that tries to codify things and we don't know how to do it, Jesus didn't ask us to do things to that level of perfection. He asked us to follow our hearts, and that will get us on the right track.